You are now joining Children of the Watch.
That's right. It's the #1 podcast in the galaxy for all things Star Wars television. I'm your host, Alex Maxwell, and joining me is
Mac Lacey. And real fast off the top, I have a visual demonstration of a physical thing that I own that it's pretty cool.
Okay.
This mug right here.
Yes. So if you're watching on the on YouTube and you're listening on the podcast, he's got a Star Wars mug. It looks like lightsabers.
Lightsaber hilts on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Pot of coffee.
Ooh, this is going to be a good demonstration. He is pouring the coffee live on the podcast right now. I can see the steam coming up. Not only that,
are those see some little lightsabers start to come out of those hilts?
Oh my goodness!
We can check back in here in a couple minutes. You can see the.
I'm starting to see them.
Yep.
I see the red.
Yep. All right, I'll give you an update here in a few seconds. But just wanted to let y'all share that experience because it's very fun for me every time I use this mug.
Yeah. So we're recording on Saturday morning. Again, this is not a live Bad Batch recap like we've done in the past, but this kind of worked out for our schedule to do the Bad Batch recap. We will be talking about 2 episodes in this recap, and that's going to be episode 14, War-Mantle, and the latest episode, episode 15, Return to Camino. Before we jump into any business, just kind of what are some general thoughts as we approach the final episode of season 1 of the Bad Batch, Mac?
Yeah, so I really like these 2 episodes, and they gripped me in a way that maybe some of a couple of the later ones we've had have not, but it is, I thought we'd be a little bit more into it at this juncture, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
I feel like we haven't reached the heights of as far as the stakes and everything that I thought we'd be at. But I'm okay with that. I'm just enjoying the ride, and I'm interested to see where the finale takes us.
Yeah, part of me wonders, I mean, we just got the announcement I think yesterday or the day before that season 2 of the Bad Batch is going to be coming next year. So part of me wonders if there's the lightsabers. If you're watching, if you're listening, all the lightsabers have been ignited on Mac's coffee mug.
It's a cool mug. All right.
It's
sorry.
So it kind of makes me wonder, okay, they're saving some stuff obviously for season 2 to extend the story as much as possible. This, especially episode 15, well, I guess both of them, but especially episode 15 was very character heavy in terms of the stakes. I think maybe the stakes aren't as big as maybe we imagined towards the beginning of the season, where in terms of we were kind of hoping for a battle for Kamino, which kind of happened. But maybe different than what we were expecting. It was very character heavy in terms of the stakes, and especially with Crosshair, right? So
for sure, all that drama, really came to kind of a head in this episode, and so I'm excited to see where the rest of that leads.
Yeah, me too. So we're going to jump into some business real quick. So we want to make you aware that the schedule going forward, in case you missed it last week, we will be doing the final Bad Batch recap on Friday, August 13th, and it's going to be live again so that everybody can participate. So we hope that you guys can join in on YouTube to watch it live and interact with us in the chat. That's one of the most fun things that I think we've done since launching YouTube, is to be able to directly interact with you in the moment. So we will be doing the final Bad Batch recap live on Friday, August 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, this is a message from the future. What we just said about Friday, August 13th at 8 Eastern Standard Time is not going to work. Disregard. We are from the future to tell you that time is not going to work for anyone. Trust us.
There's a cataclysmic event happening that night. So we'll all enjoy that. And then we will convene Saturday morning at 10
at
Eastern?
10 Eastern Standard Time. So August 14th at 10 Eastern Standard Time, wake up with us for the Bad Batch recap live. We're going to do it live in the morning so that we can still have that awesome interaction with you guys. So make sure you wake up with us to talk about the finale on Saturday morning. Eat your cereal, eat your bacon, drink your coffee with us as we chat about the Bad Batch recap finale live Saturday, August 14th at 8 or 7 or 10 Eastern Standard Time. I just said 3 wrong times.
All right. So now that you're thoroughly confused, let's just get right back to our normally scheduled program.
So make sure you join us on our YouTube page, which you can find as Children of the Watch, a Star Wars show on our YouTube. We would love for you to subscribe. You guys have shown out in terms of subscribing to our YouTube. We would love for that to get bigger as we approach the Book of Boba Fett. And tell all your friends. That's something I think that is the biggest help for us, just word of mouth. If people are looking for Star Wars content, we would love for everyone to join our page. And if you're just the podcast type of person, I'm typically more of just a podcaster. Like I like listening to podcasts. That's okay too. We would love for you to tell your friends about the podcast and give us an awesome 5-star review over there. If not, you can send it to our email. That's what we would prefer. So we're really excited about that. Make sure you join us Friday, August 13th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have a lot of fun on the YouTube and interact with you guys and talk about the finale of the Bad Batch until, I guess, next year. And then we'll have more episodes going forward as well. We'll talk about Visions, I'm sure. And then we'll jump back into our Book of Boba Fett rewatch, picking back up after Attack of the Clones and going through Boba Fett's life up until the Book of Boba Fett premieres. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I think that's all the business.
I think so. I think we're ready to talk some Bad Batch.
We're ready to talk some Bad Batch. So episode 14 is titled War-Mantle. The director is Stuart Lee and the writer is Damani Johnson. This episode was awesome, and especially in terms, and again, I feel like this wouldn't be a Bad Batch recap if we didn't mention how visually awesome the show is.
Yeah, they keep topping themselves as far as animation and stuff goes. There hasn't been an episode yet where there's not a scene that I just have to stop and just appreciate the sheer brilliance of the image,
Yeah. So basically the Bad Batch, they go to this planet called Darrow where a clone commando is being chased through the forest, what we think are at first other clones, but we come to find out these are now the regular stormtroopers that we know, the TK stormtroopers. And this clone turns out to be Gregor, which we know from Star Wars Rebels. We kind of know his end point in Star Wars Rebels. This is kind of the crux of him rebelling against the Empire.
Yeah.
And the Bad Batch get contacted by Rex. And so Rex basically asked the Bad Batch for help to go save Gregor and break him out of this facility on Darrow. And they get there. By the way, I saw this week. The Havoc Marauder, the ship the Bad Batch fly, is shaped exactly like a Kamino saber dart.
That's true. That's very true. It's even got the things on the edge of the wings and all that too. It does look exactly like that. Which
we are proud sponsors of Kamino saber darts here.
Well, they're a sponsor of our show.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Yes, that's what I meant. So they get to Darrow and basically they find this huge facility. I love that we haven't seen Hunter actually do any hunting. So
Right.
I'm glad we actually got to see Hunter do what his skill actually is like
Break
tracking.
out the super senses.
Yeah. And so they find that facility inside the mountain, and that facility, I'm just telling you right now, if I'm a bad guy, that's how I'm building my facility.
Oh, absolutely. It's like the Bond villain fortress of
Yes,
the Empire.
it really is.
You
Did it
know?
not remind you of like GoldenEye or something like
Yeah,
that? Yeah.
kinda. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty sweet. And so Hunter, Tech, and Echo are looking down into the facility while Wrecker and Omega are back on the Havoc Marauder. And there's these stormtroopers now. And one of the first things that I noticed with these stormtroopers is that they're not like the stormtroopers we all know. They're actually the Ralph McQuarrie design stormtroopers, which I guess is kind of like a buffer between clones and the stormtroopers we know. And
Yeah. It's like
honestly,
this.
I prefer these.
Oh, really? I don't
Yes.
prefer them, but I love that we get to actually see like the transitional stage from the clone armor to stormtrooper armor. I
Yeah.
like that, and that's something that I've really noticed, even like particularly in the last two episodes. Just the emphasis on transition and
Mm,
showing, like we're finally seeing like that kind of the gaps are getting filled in like for us. Those seams are becoming more blurred.
right.
um and a big thing that they're doing that with is the music. They're really expertly using a lot
Yeah.
of themes from like the prequel era. They're blending them with, we're starting to hear more and more of like the original trilogy motifs and everything.
Yeah.
Even just from one of the like the music they started playing during one of the battles in War-Mantle, it was like a motif from the original trilogy, which we
Yeah.
hadn't really heard before. So I just the emphasis they're putting on transition is really cool.
Yeah, this War-Mantle made me want to rewatch A New Hope for sure.
Yeah,
Like it just called back to those vibes of A New Hope. Even the facility inside looked way more Imperial than it did Republic.
right.
In terms of it kind of looked like the inside of a Death Star. They're just running in hallways, shooting at each other as that music plays. Very A New Hope. So
Yeah, for sure.
I thought that was cool. I also thought that it was cool that we got to see the clone commandos in Imperial armor, like an
Yes.
Imperial version, like an Imperial commando, basically.
Right.
And
Like with the glowing visors and
yeah,
everything like that. Yeah.
so those were like the clone commandos. Now they learn there's like only 50 in the facility. So they're like, when they get there, they're wondering what's going on because they don't realize that transition has been taking place. You know, they
Right.
have not realized that Rampart and his War-Mantle project has been transitioning from clone troopers to regular, everyday people, stormtroopers.
TK troopers.
TK 421.
Yep.
Do copy. So, yeah, so it was really, really cool to see that. They, of course, get Gregor out and they try to escape. And while Echo is plugging himself into things and using clone codes, basically, it kind of alerts the whole base to their presence. And so they have to try to escape. As they escape, Hunter gets left behind. Basically we get to this hallway scene that reminded me a lot of The Fugitive, right?
Yeah.
Like there's this huge tunnel and they have to jump out of it into the Havoc Marauder, but Hunter doesn't quite make it and he falls all the way down the mountain and he's surrounded. And we basically end the episode with him and Crosshair. Crosshair confronts him and says, I was kind of hoping for everyone, but you'll do. And that's kind of where we leave the episode. One of the things that I thought was really awesome in this episode was that Gonky really saved the day.
Yeah.
You know,
Finally
they plugged him in. Yeah.
Yeah, he got to R2D2 the situation, kind of come in and save everyone. So yeah, that was great to see. You love to see it.
I was very worried when he got overpowered. I thought, man, I hope he's safe, but we learn in the next episode he's okay.
It's all good.
Maybe. I don't know
As far as we
now
know,
at the end of that episode. I don't know.
yeah. The sentience of Gonk droids is kind of up in the air, right?
Mm,
Because like there's some droids you definitely know are sentient, but like
yes.
are all droids sentient? I think there's levels, there's degrees to it.
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
Gonky seems more like a pet than like say Chopper or R2, who seem more like a team member, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to
We
think
don't
of
need to
like
get into that on a Saturday morning, but
some sort of animal to compare, because I always compare like droids, like especially astromechs are kind of like dogs, like very loyal dogs.
except Chopper is like more of a cat.
Yes. Oh, no doubt.
I think that would make Gonky like more of like a hamster or something.
Yeah.
Up until this point, he's really just kind of been scenery, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. There's got to be like we'll come to it, I'm sure. But yeah, it was good to see, him actually do something, and we get to see how Gonk droids are used, basically just for power. They're big generators.
It's a battery that can walk to you.
Gonk. So what are some things that stood out to you in War-Mantle?
This is kind of my go-to, I feel like, but the team dynamics, I loved to see that like immediately Tech was like, no, we're gonna stick it out and come rescue you, but then Hunter has to give them, order them to flee, which is the right call. I mean, if they had stayed, they would have all been captured or worse, you know. But I just love to see that there is that initial kind of loyalty thing from the squad. They're like, no, we're gonna stick it out. We'll come back for you.
Right.
But they are soldiers at the end of the day, and like they can think tactically and kind of fall back now to fight another day, like in the next episode. So
right.
Getting to see that, just it really just the transitional elements of this episode, the new Stormtrooper armor. I mean, those are the big things for me.
That's what stood out to me too, is just that armor. It looks so cool. Of course, I'm sure some people are tired of like Star Wars always dipping back into Ralph McQuarrie designs, but it's like, I mean, the guy visualized Star Wars for us. Like he's the one that gave Star Wars its very specific look. So it's like, I don't mind that. But
yeah, I don't either. Nobody complains when all the sound design in Star Wars imitates what Ben Burtt did. It's like, no, he made what Star Wars sounds like, and then we know what what it's supposed to sound like. So you just follow that template.
Yeah.
You can't. You create a world, and then you got to play by those rules. But,
yeah. I wonder, like within the next 10 years when, we're getting content and stuff, and maybe we're already seeing this, but like, will people be dipping into like Doug Chang unused?
I hope so.
Concept art. I feel like we kind of did already in terms of like the Darth Maul. That wasn't Doug Chang. That was Ian. I can't remember his last name, but like the Darth Maul concept was reused basically for Mother Talzin in the Clone Wars.
The original one that was too scary.
Yeah. So like we're seeing a little bit of that already.
I don't know. I just like the legacy aspect of that.
I do too.
And like it'd be, if we were only getting Ralph McQuarrie reworks, that'd be one thing too. That would maybe get old. But I mean, I feel like we're getting a lot of very fresh, original ideas and stuff coming out too. So I don't mind to also, honor the kind of the legacy.
Yeah, like if you want just like a Ralph McQuarrie fest, just watch Rebels. That's pretty much what that is. That's specifically, we're just using concepts from him.
And I feel like the Stormtrooper armor we saw in War-Mantle, it is closer to like the cadet look.
Yes.
Like, you know what I'm talking about from Rebels? It's closer to that.
Good point. Good eye. Yeah.
There's a lot of continuity there too.
Yeah, I do like that. Like from the back, it's very first ordery, right?
Yeah.
Like the way that the helmet is shaped. Part of me, before we saw the face, I was like, wait a second. Like, is this like an offshoot already doing first ordery things
Right.
for Palpatine already?
Yeah. I think it's just like all the first order designs are a little more streamlined, like a little more minimal,
Yeah.
and these hadn't developed quite the level of detail as the standard stormtrooper armor.
Yeah. So it kind of makes me wonder too, while we're on the topic of the sequels and stormtroopers, we know that General Hux, his father, was a real big part of training stormtroopers.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, I don't think by the finale we'll see his father, but I'm wondering if like in season 2 of the Bad Batch, we might see, I believe his name is Brendel Hux,
Brindle Hux. Yeah.
helping
I would
train stormtroopers.
Yeah, I would love that. He's popped up in
Yeah.
a lot of novels,
Mhm.
and I'm always really interested in his character, and how all that went down and like the politics of the transition from the Empire to the First Order and stuff like that. So I would love to get him, on screen sometime.
Yeah, it'd be pretty sweet. My favorite part, I think, was just looking at that facility. Like, that was just so satisfying seeing that facility built right into the middle of the mountain like that.
Yeah,
I don't know what it was. It's a lot of it reminded me of Heir to the Empire, which is now a Legends novel, but like there's this planet in Heir to the Empire that Thrawn goes to that basically Palpatine built a facility into the mountain.
yeah,
That's pretty much how I imagined it. And so it's
yeah,
like kind of cool to see that come to life. It's like, wow, that's it's like straight from my brain. That's really cool. Like
yeah.
it's really cool when things like that happen. Very empire-ish in terms of like it reminded me too of Dark Forces a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely,
You know what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah, I could
That,
see Kyle Katarn running through there.
yeah, just the 90s Star Wars vibe.
Yeah, yeah.
It was cool. So, okay, any questions that you have coming out of that episode for War-Mantle? I feel like most of my questions are kind of answered or are extended into the next episode.
Yeah, I feel like mostly this episode just did a really good job of setting up the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was the primary purpose, and I think it pulled that off, excellently. But it didn't leave me a lot of stuff that you know, I didn't have any questions about this episode after watching the next one.
Yeah. So let's just jump into episode 15 then. Episode 15 is titled Return to Camino. The director is Nathaniel Villanueva and the writer is Matt Michinovitz. And this episode was awesome. Now, I mean, you mentioned this earlier. So we got a lot of musical callbacks in this last episode of New Hope.
Yes.
Attack of the Clones was this one.
We got the whole Kamino theme and everything. And that's what I was talking about too. Like I love that we're still getting a blend of all those motifs,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I loved hearing that. The kind of the Kamino theme is so like mysterious and it's perfect. It suits the planet perfectly.
Yeah. Well, I guess one thing we didn't talk about for the last episode was basically Rampart has evacuated the facility of everyone and basically murdered the prime minister and captured their scientist and pulled out. So that was kind of interesting. And so Crosshair is taking Hunter back to Camino and basically setting up a trap, right? Like that's the vibe that I got is Crosshair setting up a trap to lure the rest of the Bad Batch there and make his proposal, which is pretty interesting. So the Bad Batch go to rescue Hunter. We get to Camino. There's actually a secret facility that none of them knew about that Omega knows about, that once you approach it, like it comes out of the ocean and you can land on it.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. And there's secret tunnels that lead to different places that we did not know about. And we get to really see where the Bad Batch were grown.
Yes.
In that secret research facility.
Yeah, and a lot of that makes sense because we've heard the Kaminoans in this series always kind of calling them experimental clones, but then
Yeah.
they've always thought of themselves as defective clones.
So that was new information, right? Like, because I was thinking
Sort of.
through,
I mean, I like it's been hinted at, but now we're really getting the full kind of reveal on that.
They're not exactly a bad batch. It's not like they were on accident. They were all on purpose.
Right.
Here's what makes me, here's kind of my theory right now, my working theory. And maybe I missed something in the episode and I wasn't paying attention as hard as I should have been, but maybe you can help me with this. When they get to the research facility and they see basically all their tanks where they were born, it makes me wonder, since Omega's not like a genetic, like she's not, her age isn't sped up. Was she the first one? And she has like all the skills of all of them. And then they individually took some of the skills and grew the rest of them out of her. So it's like she's actually the first one.
I don't know if she was the first one. Okay. I think Boba was the first one. Because he's called Alpha.
Yeah, but like I don't know if he has those special skills. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I don't know that Omega does either, though.
Okay.
I don't necessarily. Yeah. I don't really see her having like a combination of the rest of the Bad Batch's skills. Like, I don't see her being super strong or having the senses or anything. True. I think she's her own thing.
Yeah,
but I think she was the first and kind of the prototype for like what an experimental clone would be.
Gotcha.
Or not the first. I think Boba was the first, and I think because of the request Jango made, this is all Nala Se's laboratory. It's her like secret facility.
Mm-hmm.
I think like because of the request Jango made, they were like, okay, we have to make this one clone that's altered. While we're at it, why don't we see what else we can do?
Yeah,
and then they tried because Boba is supposed to be unaltered, right? That's the whole
thing. Nothing different about him at all. Yeah.
Right. So then the next time they were like, but what if we did that again and tried
we altered them
something? And that was Omega. And then they tried it again with the rest of the Bad Batch, but sped them up so that they can try them out in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, or like you just reverse that. It's like they made Hunter. It's like, okay, he can track really well. Now let's do Wrecker. He's super strong. Yeah. And then eventually they get to Omega, which we don't know if she has any skills like that or not. I don't know. Maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
It seemed like from the way she was talking about it, though, she almost watched them grow up.
Yeah, I know. That's the
like
vibe I was getting to. Yeah.
Which is why I think maybe she was first. And so like while she was just growing up on a normal timeline, she watched them all grow up real fast. You know?
Yep.
Which that kind of answers a lot of things as far as the initial connection they feel, you know, being they thought they were, you know, just a Bad Batch and that's like the connection they felt. But what if they're actually kind of more family than they thought?
So like Clone 99, the one that was deformed and he was in the Clone Wars, he was older.
Yes.
I wonder if he was like, okay, they're going to try it on him. It didn't work. So let's just make him the janitor. And so it's like, because they were called Experimental Force 99.
Right. Yeah. And his designation was 99.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's connection there. I was thinking about him the whole time I was watching this as well.
There's something going on there for sure.
Yeah. So
okay.
My whole thing is I think Omega actually watched the Bad Batch grow up.
I think you could be right.
Child herself.
Yeah, I think that might be right because she's not altered like them in terms of she was born and
right, but she has something. They did something with her that they didn't do with Boba.
It's got to be the Force.
Maybe the Force, maybe like a light version, you know?
Force light.
Yeah.
Force
and maybe
light.
that's why I think we're ultimately going to get some big thing that the Mandalorian, like the cloning stuff in the Mandalorian, it's all going to culminate in something. And that might be Snoke or it might be something different.
I kind of want it to be something different at this point.
I do too. Because Snoke didn't really
there's
being much of a threat or anything like that. So like, why build to that? You know? but something adjacent to Snoke. So Snoke might have just been another step kind
Yes.
of in the direction of something else. And that could kind of be what this is all leading to.
Yes.
We've
And
we've
like,
been saying it. Cloning is very in vogue currently. Like we're all about some cloning in Star Wars right now.
yeah, and it not Palpatine either. Like I want that to be like its own separate thing. Like Palpatine was taking those ideas but doing it with a dark side twist.
Right.
I would like to see it lead to option number 3, if
Right.
possible.
I would like there to be something that the actual true believers of the First Order were building towards
Yeah,
before they were kind of just hijacked as another stepping
co-opted.
stone for
Yeah.
Palpatine. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
maybe the cloning stuff is actually the through line of what their kind of end game was.
Which kind of brings me back to Thrawn. You know, like if they're
Right.
building Thrawn to be the big bad guy in the Mandalorian era
Yeah.
of things, I think, and we know from the legends we talked about Heir to the Empire, he was cloning Jedi. Like that was
Yeah.
his thing. He was cloning Jedi, and he was basically using them against Luke Skywalker. I would like to see him do something like that too.
Yeah.
That would be like, if that's what we're leading towards, like, oh, they figured out not only how to clone, like, and give people special skills, but like to manipulate the metachlorian count, which we heard about in the Mandalorian, right? The M count and stuff like that. It's like they know about it. Something's going on there. I think hopefully it is connected to Thrawn, and we're seeing threads of this in the Bad Batch. It might not directly lead to it, but I would again, just those connections. That's why we like Star Wars. This is part of the fun of Star Wars, is just how everything is connected.
Right.
That would be really, really cool if that's something we're leading to.
Yeah.
So
anyway, we can take a step away from our our court boards covered with red pieces of string, and we can focus back in on the episode.
So okay, well, I mean, they go throughout the facility, right, and they get to under the training course where they're tracking Hunter, and they know Hunter's in the training course where we saw in the first episode. And I love that really this episode is like a mirror of the first episode in many ways.
Yes,
which was really cool.
Yeah, it's cool to see where we're back in the same situation, kind of, and to see where things have changed and like how far things have come.
Yeah, cool. And the facility is basically empty. Now, when they got under the training facility, I did not immediately make the connection that all those things on the wall were the droids that look a lot like the Dark Troopers. I was thinking is like, are those more like Bad Batch type clones in there?
Well, I thought they were. I had forgotten that the training droids looked so much like that.
Yeah,
just like watching the episode, and I thought, I was like, were we also gonna get some kind of first
Dark
iteration
Trooper,
of the Dark Trooper program here too? And I was like, we're just really,
which I mean, you could consider that. I feel like a first or Generation 0 type thing going on with those training droids.
They look a lot like them, and I mean, they function similarly,
In which we saw, let me make the connection here for everyone again. We saw Thrawn fighting one of these in Star Wars Rebels. Just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So maybe he shepherded the Dark Trooper program, gave it to Moff Gideon, said, have fun. So
I think the moral of all this is that the Bad Batch has way more to do with everything than we ever thought.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I'm never going to be surprised if they bring anything into the Bad Batch, because we've just done it all at this point.
Exactly. And again, and I said this from the very first recap that we did, I never imagined we would get the story of how the Empire transitions from clone troopers to stormtroopers.
Right.
That's a story I've always wondered about, and I'm so glad we're getting it and we're seeing it. So Wrecker, Tech, and Echo get on the platform and tell Omega to stay below, and they're going to go up and save Hunter. Of course, when they get up there, they're surrounded by the elite squadron led by Crosshair. Now, I got a little confused, honestly, at this part in terms of what is Crosshair's motivation here in terms of what he's trying to accomplish.
Yeah. I really do think it's he misses his friends, but he's those are his brothers still. He still feels that way about them, but he needs them to come to his side versus the other way. Like I think this scene kind of solidified that his first loyalty is to the Empire now.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about all the complications to that in a little bit, I'm sure. But yeah, I think my read is that his first loyalty is to the Empire. That's where his allegiance lies. But if he can have it his way, he'll have his brothers by his side while he serves the Empire. That would be his ideal,
I feel like, and again, I said this earlier as well, Crosshair is like the Kylo Ren of the show in terms of like, he's not really a Vader personality. It's more of a, hey, I want you to join me. I just happen to be on the bad guy side. Come on.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? Like, he gives me those vibes, and especially this scene. I love what they're doing here. It's like they're doing the whole Sith thing where it's like, join me and we can do this together, but without the Force. Like, there's no, Force stuff with this, but it's the same beat. It's the same story beat. And I love that.
I do too. I think it's a great way to make a show where the Force is largely a more abstract concept, and still make it feel present and like it's still influencing things. Because like, I mean, you talk about this all the time. Like the Force is kind of the central point that everything in Star Wars revolves around. If you didn't have the Force, it wouldn't be Star Wars.
Right.
So yeah, I love that. They're finding ways like that to make its presence felt without it being people, slinging each other around through the air.
So basically, Crosshair gives Hunter and the rest of the Bad Batch an option of like, okay, listen, you guys never gave me a chance, but I'm going to give you a chance right now to join me. Yeah. But like, I guess what I'm confused about is like, what is he really thinking that's going to happen? Like, does he really truly believe like they're going to come and join the Empire with me so we can protect the galaxy? Like, it seems like in Crosshair's mind, it's like he is really doing this for the right motivations to protect the galaxy and make it strong.
I don't know. I don't know that Crosshair's motivations go any further than he was ordered.
Yeah.
I really don't. I think his like the sides he's talking about is not even the Empire. Like I don't even think he's one of these like law and order type people, who love the Empire because of like the order it supposedly brings or whatever. I think he really is just following orders. I think that being a soldier is the most important thing to him in his own life, and that part of that, if he's truly going to be who he believes himself to be, he has to follow orders.
I feel like they really missed an opportunity at this point in the episode when Crosshair ends up taking out the elite squadron. And he basically orders the squadron, hey, put your weapons down. And one of them looks over and says no. And then he shoots all of them with one shot. Like it bounces off everyone. And it's really sweet. Man, it would have been so awesome if he had said, good soldiers follow orders.
Yeah, that would have been good. I've been like, oh, full circle. You got it. All right.
Yeah. It's like, hey, listen, you got to follow my orders. I told you to put your weapons down.
Right. I really think that that's the extent to which, that's the extent of his motivations. Is he's following orders, and like following orders is the thing he's fighting for.
Yeah, and we learn in this whole exchange too, he's had his chip removed for a while now. So like,
I think there's an asterisk by that right now.
Well, okay, why do you say that?
Hunter checked his head. He was looking for a scar, and I know that he's got. I think he was trying to see if like the side of his head that was all mangled and everything had a scar on it. He was checking his head for a scar when he was stunned.
Yeah,
like on the ground earlier.
Yeah.
Or later, I guess. So I don't know if he's been told that, if somebody did a scan. He's like, so that they get that further buy-in.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
So
that
it's
could be
still probably in
psychological
there.
manipulation on the side of the Empire.
Very Winter Soldier type thing going on.
Right. So I think there's an asterisk. I hope that he's telling the truth and then that's actually the case, not because of not for character reasons or story reasons, but because I think that's a more interesting and compelling villain is one who really believes in what they're doing and not that they're being mind controlled,
Right. Now, we see earlier, like in the season, when they basically put him in that Winter Soldier thing and like we're doing things to his head, right? Did we not see that in Rampart and Tarkin watching?
Yes.
So it's like, okay, what was the purpose of that then? Like if the chip is truly gone, then what were they doing?
Yeah.
To him.
I think there's some funny business afoot. Is all I'm willing to concretely say at this point.
So at this point, Omega thinks she's helping when she's like activating all the proto dark troopers. That's what I'm going to call them for now. And basically sending them up to cause a distraction. And basically she activated all of them. And they're surrounded, and then they become the Bad Batch again, and Crosshair ends up like helping them take out all the droids, and you've got Omega at the top using her bow rifle. And it's a really cool scene, and the Bad Batch theme plays and stuff, and they're able to take them all out. But one of the elite squad troopers is still alive. They kind of see that, okay, wait a second, it looks like Crosshair's helping them now. So like she kind of reports in that that's the case, and then she gets out of there on the shuttle. And I love this scene where we see all the emptiness of the city.
Yes. This scene, and like because we see just how empty everything is, this scene did like probably more to me emotionally than it should have. To me, it felt like the death of the prequel era. This was and because that's the era I grew up in as I was a kid, those were the movies coming out. I was playing Lego Star Wars, running around Camino, making the Kaminoans do disco dances and stuff. Like all this stuff culminated in those shots of just the emptiness. There's no activity. We are leaving this era of Star Wars, like no one's here anymore. And then the fact that it all just gets blown up is just, I don't know, man. It gave me similar feelings to the end of the Clone Wars, like the last episode of season 7. When they're showing like the crashed Venerator cruiser and all the clone helmets, like kind of the mass grave type thing, like same feeling. It's like, I don't know. I felt it affected me outside of the story, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So
if you're watching, there's a banner now under us that says "We are sad."
Yep. We are.
So yeah, like that is a very sad way to put it. It is like the death of the prequel era, and we have transitioned fully into the Empire now. You get to see that when they start shooting down at the facility. In terms of what's happening to the Bad Batch and Crosshair and all of them, I have to assume that Omega is going to be leading them to one of those underground tunnels. I have to assume that.
It has to be. Yeah.
So that's very sad. What happened to the Havoc Marauder? Where is Gonky? Is he safe?
He okay. Yeah.
These
are burning questions.
Maybe quite literally, burning questions. He could be burning and sinking underneath the Kaminoan ocean.
Yikes.
So I don't know. Honestly, I'm trying to think through what happens next. Like, where does it go from here? I don't know. I don't know what the besides trying to escape the wreckage, what they would be trying to do in the next episode. You know, like I don't know if it's like a let's go get Rampart type thing. I don't know if it's I honestly cannot try to think of where do we go from here. I'm excited to see where we go from here, but I don't know where we go from here.
Right. Yeah, no, I feel the same way. Like I'm trying to figure out what's going on with Crosshair. Is he actually still under the influence of the chip? Is, you know, I hope he's not. Just I think that's a more interesting villain, but you know, there could be other cool stuff they do plot wise, you know, if they're manipulating him.
Here's what I could see happening. I could see once they are like finished kind of firing on, and some of it's still probably going to be floating above the water a little bit. You see the fires. Rampart's going to probably order like, okay, go make sure they're either dead or like go get them for me or something to those along those lines. And I could see a situation where maybe Crosshair has to make a choice of am I going to save them from this or am I going to help? Like kind of what the deal is with Crosshair. What's the deal with Crosshair? So,
oh man,
we'll see. And I'm sure it's going to set up a second season. I would love to see like, what if they get down to another, like back to the secret facility and they find something,
another bad batch or something, you know?
Yeah.
What if there's just like copies of themselves?
Yeah.
There's just another Crosshair. They can just unfreeze good Crosshair or whatever, and they can have two Crosshairs. Just replace them. I'm joking, of course, but
except his is on the other eye, the Crosshair.
Hair cross.
Hair cross. Yes. That would be a very Legends EU thing.
Yeah.
Just flip the name. Hair cross.
And just like his colors are inverted or something like on his armor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to talk about this on Friday, August 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be doing a live show on YouTube. So if you want to join us and have that fun interaction, of course, we'll be taking your questions towards the end, talk about where this could go, where this could lead.
Alex, I just remembered a scheduling thing. We'll talk about it off air. For now, let's say maybe
the
not
weekend.
A definite. Yeah, that weekend.
The weekend. That weekend.
Okay. I'm glad I just remembered it now.
Yeah.
It'll be that weekend.
Let's do that then.
I think I might have a prior engagement on Friday, actually.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm glad you said something.
This was the time to remember. So, and I didn't remember until you said the date out loud. I was only thinking of it in terms of
Friday.
Next Friday. So,
yeah. So the weekend.
Maybe it'll be that weekend.
It will be that weekend.
And we will get you details ASAP.
Yeah, so be on the lookout. You can follow us on Twitter at COTWatch to kind of keep an update on when that time will be, exactly when we do the Bad Batch recap live. Or we could just end up doing it and putting it out on Friday. Who knows what happens. So make sure you follow us. You can follow us on Instagram at COTWatch as well. And just thank you guys for joining us for this. This was kind of, the whole Bad Batch recap was a last minute thing. We weren't planning on doing any animation talk really, and just kind of saving ourselves for the live action. But this ended up having so many connections to the live action stuff, like we talked about in this episode, how it could connect to Thrawn possibly, and what he's doing in the Mandalorian era. We had to talk about it. So this has been a lot of fun.
It's just good. It's a good show. Good. I'm really enjoying it.
I am too.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us for the Bad Batch recap. As we said, we'll see you next time for the finale. But until then, keep the watch.